Hey everyone, it's Brother Steve Sprott here, and we are excited to announce that this episode of The First Three Knocks is brought to you by our good friends at fraternalties.com. If you haven't seen their stuff yet, you've got to check them out. They have some amazing ties on their site, and the unique thing about their products is that the closer you look at them, the more hidden Masonic imagery you can find. Their ties are extremely impressive and all are limited edition. Take a look for yourself at fraternalties.com. That's FRATERNALTIES.com.
On today's episode, we're discussing my time in the East.
You're listening to The First Three Knocks, a Masonic podcast in the District of York, where we discuss topics for the betterment of Masonry. The opinions discussed in this podcast are those of the individual and do not represent the views of Grand Lodge or any other Masonic body. Now, here are your hosts.
Good morning, brethren. We're in the eastern jurisdiction of York District today. We're coming to you from Uxbridge, Ontario. My name is Worshipful Brother Burt, your co-host.
And I am Gino Scovio, Brother Gino Scovio, also your co-host from the Rising Sun out in Aurora.
And I am Brother Steve Sprott, a fellow craft from Zaradatha Lodge in Uxbridge, soon to be Master Mason.
It's coming up, isn't it?
It's coming up. I got my date.
Excited? Are you ready?
I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready.
Good.
Long time coming.
Yes, it has been a long time coming. It's the one event I'm really looking forward to is coming to see you go through that Master Mason's degree.
Well, I'll appreciate your support.
We will be here. We will be here.
Perfect.
Well,
January 20th.
January 20th.
Yep, January 20th.
That's when it'll all start. So you'll actually be working at that point. You'll start working as a Mason.
Yeah.
Finally.
I've just been cruising so far.
Yeah.
He's the busiest entered apprentice and fellow craft that I've ever met. So yeah, just wait till you.
Just wait till he gets to Master Mason. He's gonna be very busy.
Well, that's why I've been holding off for so long. They'll just make me do more work.
Folks, we're flipping the switch a little bit here. Normally we have Worshipful Brother Atelier kind of lead our interviewing sessions, and I thought we'd surprise him today. He just finished.
Wait, what?
Oh yeah, it's happening. Surprise!
Oh,
just finished a year in the chair of King Solomon, sitting up in the East, and we thought we'd really kind of dive in. You know, we've learned a little bit from kind of your journey as to how you got into Masonry, and you know, the curiosity that got you up in the Calgary and whatnot, and finding the Rising Sun at the street sale out in Aurora. But I think the audience really want to kind of get personal with you today and see kind of where and what things
under the hood, huh?
You got it, right?
Yeah.
It's time. It's time. I think we've got a good following, and they're really enjoying what we're talking about from the comments that we're getting. And again, thanks everybody for your support.
Yeah,
it's been amazing, and we're not done yet. So let's get into it, guys. So like I said, from previous podcasts, you shared with us, you know, how you found Masonry kind of up in Calgary and whatnot, and coming through Aurora and meeting the guys at the Rising Sun and having that time that you had to wait, you know, that 1 year of living in the
long
area.
wait.
But I want to ask you, you know, we just had our installation Thursday.
We did. It was very fresh. Huh? It's only been 2
amazing.
days.
Yeah, 2 days out of the office, if you were. We kicked you out of the chair. And
officially has been.
There was some kind of sharing that night, or even just afterwards at banquet and whatnot. And when you were first made a Mason, you know, why don't you share with the listeners kind of what was swirling in your head? Like, I'm talking the night you were initiated.
Oh, the night of. I had no idea what was going on. Very worshipful Brother Mike Redmond picked me up as a sponsor, and he was very good to me and kind to me, and of course revealed absolutely nothing, which he tends to do all the time. He likes to poke that on me, but that specific night was like for all Masons special. I had no idea what was going on. I was confused. I was lost. A bunch of nice brethren came up to me though and made me feel welcomed. One of them was Right Worshipful Brother Doug Hotham. And I will always remember that. And I have a very fond memory of him for that and many other reasons. But that particular reason is he would always come up to me and welcome me every time I saw him in lodge. And he would take me by the hand and he would sit me down and ask me how I was doing. That impacted me as unique, because you know what it's like in lodge, and many of our listeners are Masons, and they know what it's like in lodge, especially when you're in an officer's chair and you're busy. To take the time to talk to a new Mason really had an impact on me. So I always remember that very fondly, that experience. Right Worshipful Brother John Trotter was their District Deputy Grand Master the night I was initiated.
That's
and
awesome.
so I think I mentioned that on one of the previous podcasts.
Was it an official visit or anything like that? Or
It was official visit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I got initiated on an official visit. So there was a big crowd.
Nice
And
big audience.
Yeah, it's really special for the initiate to come in on a big night like that. There's a lot of pomp and ceremony. I've told you guys before, I love the ritual. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And then to see that many guys when that part of the ceremony happens is really incredible. That's the one thing that is imprinted on my mind that I will never forget. So that feeling of warmth and comfort and respect, I've never experienced before like I did on that night.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really special for me.
So, I mean, again, all kinds of things are swirling through the mind and whatnot, and now you become a fresh entered apprentice, and you had
Newbie.
that audience and everybody there for you and support you that way. Right afterwards, you went through the ritual. What was going through your mind?
Got a mic adjustment here. How we doing?
Is that
Good?
better?
Okay.
We're good? All right, we're back on.
After the night.
Yeah, so right after the night, again, I mean, we've all
I was
kinda
more
go through-
confused. I
Yeah.
think I was more confused. I was trying to understand why.
So again, kind of what the design of Masonry is, right?
Yeah.
Kind of, I guess, open the mind and lighten you a little bit, and then just give you more like question marks, like what the hell just happened?
Exactly. My interest was piqued.
All right,
Right?
well, that's perfect.
So here I was. I spent a bunch of money. I met a bunch of new guys. I had this experience I'd never had before. Where does it go from here? And pretty quickly it went fast, because I believe I got through my degrees in about a year.
Okay.
From that point. And Right Worshipful Brother Scott Rickman had got me working a little bit in some of the committees and involved. And, that would be my encouragement to a lot of the lodges out there, is to put your brother into work, because there's no better way to learn, to get to know people than that.
Well,
I mean, I'm talking to two guys
I
here
think,
that
again,
are kind of the
it's
kings
absolutely
of this.
right. Like engage them, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we've been working on a new program within our lodge of just kind of really mentoring some of those newer EAs and FCs, and I think they feel very appreciative of the time we give to them. It's funny. They always say, you're giving your time, and we don't. And if I have my time, I'd rather be doing something with it. And I think Masonry teaches me that. So it's good to give back. And so some of the things that they've echoed, and I imagine I'm going to ask you this question next. Some of our new EAs, they go through the ritual, and a lot of our stuff is done very much by memory. And there are some pretty amazing pieces, and very lengthy pieces at that. And they say, "Oh, I'll never be able to do that." So again,
I remember being that guy.
Worshipful sir, how after becoming an EA, maybe a month or two of kind of starting to grasp what's going on and working towards getting your next degrees, did you have those aspirations at that point
No.
to say, I'd like to go to the East? Did you even ever picture yourself going to that direction, taking over the chair of King Solomon? Like none of that at all?
No, none of that really came to mind for me. I did not have that aspiration. I joined Masonry really for spiritual reasons. I had always felt that something was lacking in my life, and I wouldn't say I was a great religious follower, although I was confirmed Catholic and baptized and sort of grew up that way. But the opportunity to bring the spiritual element of my life back, that was why I joined. One of the main reasons I joined Masonry was to get at that and start pondering and considering, and so I didn't have that aspiration to go through chairs, and quite frankly I didn't know what it meant to go through chairs. It wasn't on my mind. there was just all these great guys around at the Rising Sun Lodge who seemed to want me to be around. So I came around, right?
Well, again,
I participated.
I ask you that question because working with all our newbies, they say and think the same things. And
I
being
remember that.
in the craft now for about 5 years and seeing some of the newer brethren who are now sitting in offices, it's amazing because that's what I think we've all said when we first come through. And within that first year, it's like, there's no way I'm going that way. Yeah. You know, did you ever think that you'd be able to learn all the memory work that comes with Masonry, right? That's another challenge. I think we all go through.
Even being an EA, I was really worried about going to Fellowcraft. I mean, you guys could probably laugh at that too, but you think about how much memory work that is in comparison to your future steps.
Well, I always say that's the first biggest challenge that we're faced as new Masons, right?
Yeah. Is
to kind of learn our niche, if you will, and getting through that. And once you've opened that floodgate, I find the rest just flows, and there's always just another step to add, You know, there's lots to work towards, but you're not starting from A to Z. You got to hit every letter on the way.
Well, you have a lot of work this year, right? In your chair.
I do. I got a little bit of extra work coming my way, although I have lightened my load in some of the other committees that I've been on to prepare. The brethren did vote me as junior warden, and that comes with a pretty awesome responsibility. And it's one of the now principal officers, and I'm very excited to be there. And again, I hope to serve my brethren in our lodge as best as I can. So
yeah, you know, Sprotty, he's being pretty humble about that. I got to tell you, because we had our officers examination, and Gino Scovio pretty much knows all the roles he has done and is in, and ahead of him as well. I mean, you are one of the most prepared guys I've seen in Masonry. So
well, hold on now. This isn't about me today. We're talking about you. So we'll have
funny how we flipped that. Huh?
Right, all of a sudden, it's surprise. Here we go, Gino. So let's get back to Burt. Your year here. You know, I found again through my experience, I've gone through a few chairs now, and as we just mentioned, finally in the office of junior warden. For me, I think last year's chair of senior deacon was my aha moment, if you will. I like to use that from you know, Oprah, I think, is the one that put that one out there. When was your aha moment?
Oh, I've had so many, and I don't know if I could pin it to a chair, but some memorable experiences I had through the chairs. When I became junior deacon, that had a real impact on me, because now you had some responsibility for taking people through the lodge.
Yeah.
Right. So you were now on the hook. I mean, you know it well. You're a great deacon, but as you go through, and now you're learning the nuances of the responsibility of caring for people from a Masonic aspect. That really was a great challenge for me, and I enjoyed that role a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, the junior warden is the biggest. I think the biggest step up in the officer progression is the junior warden. You talk to anyone who's done junior warden, that's it. You're about to embark on that, which I feel you're very well prepared for. But you end up with a lot more responsibility administratively, and then your workload kicks up, as well as being part of the senior executive of the lodge as well.
I think you said it right. I mean, again, I find the deacons' chairs are really where you get clarity in the things that are going on, and like you said, holding yourself a little bit more to a higher standard so that you can really take the brethren through, at least in my experience. And then I found just the other night that it got serious. You know, when you get into the junior warden's chair, like, you're a couple years away should the brethren continue to have faith in you and want you to continue forward. Obviously, the person himself has to do that as well. But, yeah, it's pretty cool. So that sounds about right. For me, as I said, it was the senior deacon's chair, because I really had that second year to be a deacon and really understand the ritual a lot better. Doing a little bit more of the work really kind of rang clear. For you, it sounded like the junior deacon is when it really kicked in for you.
Well, I think just the deacon's chairs, you end up being quite busy.
Yeah.
Right? If you think of the ritual work that's involved, receiving guests, degree work, all of that, you really have... There's a bit of an art to it, I would say, and deacon's done really well. Not only it sets the tone for the lodge.
Yep.
Like, if I had encouragement for a lot of lodges, is invest time with the deacons.
Absolutely.
We've seen this in our lodge. You know this well. We've put a lot of time into getting the deacons to perform really well, because it really sets the tone for the entire evening with really good deacon work. That's one. Number two, for the deacons themselves, man, do they ever grow in that role? And personally, back to your question, that was one of my biggest growth, I'd say but maybe growth moments was in the deacon role. I really felt like, okay, I am participating.
Well, it's like
I
you
gotta
said,
do a good job.
you have a responsibility now to somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, and we always have that responsibility to someone else, to our lodge, to our brethren, but like you truly are. So again, for those who aren't Masons, deacons are the guides. So when we're doing our ritual, they're the ones who stand beside that candidate and actually take them through. And so when you have some really versed deacons that, you know, have gotten some really good education and have been shown the real good way to do
how-to.
Like you said, it sets the tone,
Yeah.
and it makes the experience for the candidate even better. And I guess in our hopes, they remember that and carry that forward. So it's almost like passing the torch at those levels at such an early stage in Masonry. So that's pretty cool.
Let me give you this example of an impact in Masonry. So when I came through, Brother Stephen Christodoulou was the deacon at that time, and he took me through my degree. And I feel like I have a bond with Stephen Christodoulou because of that, right? Because we had this experience together. And it was probably much less memorable for him, but for me as a new Mason coming through was, okay, that's my guide. That's the guy I trust. He helped me during a difficult time because, once again, by design, you are put to the test. And here you have somebody who helps you through the test, so to speak. So there's something very mentally appealing and impactful from that experience. And so I go back to the question again, is that deacon role, the junior deacon specifically for me, was one of my most memorable moments.
That's awesome. All right, so now let's fast forward a couple more years. And you are now sitting in the West as senior warden.
Senior warden, yeah.
And here we go into our November meeting. In our lodge, we have elections in November. And the ballots are cast, and the brethren have confidence in brother Burt Tellier to take the throne of King Solomon. What did it feel like that night when you got the confidence of your brethren?
Well, it's a great question. It's funny, that specific moment does have a big impression. I mean, you just went through it with junior warden, but at senior warden, it's official. Yeah, it becomes official, and for whatever reason, there's just that outside chance of doubt that there's somebody in the lodge who doesn't agree with you or sees you doing that type of work, and you now eliminated that. It's gone, and now you're up. You know, you're on deck, so to speak, is how I would describe it as a baseball analogy, and you're expected to perform. Yeah. So now there's no going back from the on deck circle. You got to go out there and perform. Right. I really enjoyed that part, and it was like, okay, one more step. Okay, one more step, one more step, one more step. And that was a big one.
And then a month later, installation comes around.
Ooh.
And you move. That's the night you move from the west to the east. And you know, at that time, when the timing's right, they give you the collar, the gold chains, and your new apron, and they seat you up in the east. What did it feel like? That very moment, that very first fresh new moment that you sat up in the east.
Well, that's an interesting experience. I would even suggest, like, Worshipful Brother Mark Oakley would be great to answer that question right now, because he just had it happen two nights ago. My experience last year, though, in my Masonic career, the installation ceremony is the most impressionable ceremony I've experienced, as being installed as a master, and then this year was the installing master. So that experience, again, around the installation ceremony is outstanding. And I got to see it from both perspectives. Last year I was the guy receiving that, and this year I was the guy giving that. Yeah. And it is awesome. It is really awesome. And I laughed a little bit on Thursday night as I was sitting as past master now, watching my brother, Worshipful Brother Mark Oakley, receive that, and the impression it had on him. Yeah. And I think his words at the end of the night were just beyond a wow.
Yeah.
He could barely get out a wow because he had no idea. And then of course you don't. It's by design.
Yeah.
You have to earn your way up there. And he felt that big time. I definitely remember it well from last year, almost walking out in like a drunken stupor at the end of the night.
It's a dream, right? Somebody
It's
pinched me
strange.
quick.
It's strange. And I know it sounds very kind of bizarre to our non-Masonic listeners. What does that mean? But as if you were a Mason, you could have an appreciation for a lot of aha moments.
Mm-hmm.
That one has in my Masonic career has been the cake.
I actually went to my first installation last week, and I went to so many official visits last year, but I had never been to an installation. I just never made it out for one, and I finally went to my first one last week, and it was so nice to see that we invite their families in too.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
They break in ceremony and invite the family in. I mean, how impactful is that to have your kids there and your wife and be presented with your gavel? And I mean, that's gotta be
Steve,
the best feeling in the world.
When I was installed last year, I had my family and my mother was there and my daughters were there.
Such a special moment to share with them.
Yeah, it's a special moment to share with them, but I know it had an impact on my daughters.
Yeah.
Right, and I saw it on Thursday night,
Yeah,
even with worship
got
brother
choked
Mark
up.
Oakley. He had the same experience with his family.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I laugh a little bit with him. He was telling me the story after. He goes, I had all this great stuff I wanted to say, and I had no ability to say any of it because there's this overwhelming feeling of love from the brethren, of your family experiencing this with you. And this is the part that doesn't get considered a lot. Maybe something for you to consider as you move to the East is the pomp and ceremony of being in a very busy, full lodge for that special night for you as being installed as a master. It's incredible.
Yeah.
You don't get that experience sitting on the couch watching the Today Show,
No, you don't.
right? Like you have to go out and do things in life, and I think Masonry is one of the places that happens, and specifically that moment is unique in the world. Yeah. I know it was special for my family, and I saw it on Thursday night for Mark as well. Like, game changer.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah.
I did find that installation, was talking to now worshipful Brother Oakley shortly after. I've been to a good handful of them in my few years now, and that was probably one of the best ones. And not because we're Rising Sun members, just for me, again, I had my awesome sponsor, my co-host here, lead the brethren in that ceremony, which he just smacked it out of the park, like beyond, like it was like seasoned veteran here, just amazing. And then to see my really, really, really good friend, Brother Oakley, like we're very good friends and close friends outside lodge, go through that. He could, like Burt just said, he almost started crying, and it was awesome, and I almost joined him. I'm a big suck in that sense. But it was awesome to see, and it kind of, in my mind, put me kind of ahead a couple of years. I know I got some time still, but I was like, I'm going to be a mess when that happens. I got a big Italian family.
You joke about it.
True.
But I would highly encourage you to think around how is that going to go, and you talk to some
record it now and hit play and just get me some tissues.
You talk to some of the older guys who've been through it longer, are right worshipfuls and very worshipfuls, past masters as well, and they all have a story to share, which is very similar, and not just from that specific moment. There's different parts of the installation ceremony that impacted them very differently, right? That had some sort of emotional connection they were not prepared for.
Yeah.
So it's not uncommon.
Yeah.
It is like for Mark, it's not uncommon. I experienced it myself going through the installation ceremony. And then there's some other great stories I won't share today, but have come out over the years of going through that installation story. It's a culmination of your life coming together.
It really is. It really is. That's awesome.
And the installation ceremony, by the way, I'd like to spend a moment on that.
Yeah, please. Sure.
Because I worked hard on it.
Yeah, you did.
And I had great support from our district. The Brethren of York District are top notch. They care. They show up. Quite frankly, they just give a damn.
Yeah.
And they're awesome. They made a rookie feel very comfortable doing that, and they made it go extremely well. We're very lucky to be in our jurisdiction, is what I would say to that.
That's awesome. So now, again, we're going to fast forward a few months into the chair, and you're the master. And and here we are. You're faced with, well, we've had some other past masters and current sitting masters on our show before. Everybody says there are certain challenges. What can you share with us that, what were some of the challenges you faced? And if you could go back, how would you have addressed certain challenges to help kind of better it?
Yeah, you've put some thought into that question, huh? That's a hard one to answer. I would say, first of all, you probably heard the saying that man makes plans and God laughs.
Yeah.
That would be the way I would give the headline to being Worshipful Master. I had this brilliant plan. I mean, you know me, I'm a planner, and I like to do things properly and be well thought out. And my year as master was going to be no different. So I've got my calendar set up, the officers are in place, the committees are lined up, and I've got this great idea based on my business, my family, and masonry, all in the 3 nice buckets, and how I'm going to work my way through it. And so Sunday mornings are going to be my full-on master of the lodge work, and then I'll do some on Wednesday night, and I'll do some throughout the week based on meetings. So that was my plan. One weekend, all of that went out the window. And I came to the conclusion that, you can't do any of that stuff because it doesn't work that way. You have to roll. You have to roll with it. And leading a lodge is a lot of work. Like being a general manager. Administratively, you have work, working with the secretary and the treasurer, which is interesting work, by the way. You have a lot of brethren to care for and be concerned with. We have a lot of brethren who are older and facing health challenges. You're dealing with that. And then you have just the general challenge now of, I've got to make sure I need to know all my ritual, which, by the way, there's a lot in master, and it's not long pieces. It's all these ticky-tack.
Little ones.
You're the guy running
the whole
degree. It's all the
in-between stuff, right?
Yeah, I think the first degree we did, I was like, wait a sec, I'm in charge of all of this, so I have to know all these pieces, let alone worry about who knows their pieces and who's going to cover. So you roll all that up into a ball, and then what I loved about my year as a master was that was the ultimate challenge. Right? So now you're responsible. What are you going to do? How are you going to lead the brethren? How are you going to instruct? How are you going to organize? How are you going to create opportunities for our new brethren? How are we going to take care of our older brethren? How are we going to take care of the guys who are just coming back to lodge? How are we going to pay the bills?
Yeah.
Really, really simplistic stuff. So I enjoyed the experience. But to answer your question around the challenges, the few that I experienced, one that I hadn't really planned for or expected was just brethren passing on. That was harder for me personally, because now, of course, there's a Masonic funeral services, and that's a whole new ceremony to contend with and organizing folks and that type of thing. But more spiritually and personally, you're reflecting more often, right? Okay, now it's part of our Masonic design is to reflect on that topic. And so we had 4 that we went through in the year. And to me, it was very more challenging, I would say, just to deal with that, let alone lead and organize on top of that. So that was one. I'd say the other thing that I had a bit of challenge with was in my business profession, I'm the boss, or I'm one of the bosses typically. So I get to lead, and there's expectations, and there's metrics, and there's deliverables, and all that kind of corporate crap, right? The upside of that is I'm very comfortable in that space. I know that very well. And then you go into a volunteer organization, and it's very different. Now, people are not being paid. They're giving of their heart and time. And so leading that type of group requires a very different approach. And so it took me a while to adjust. I would say I'm still adjusting, and I'm not even in the chair anymore. But that was a challenge for me, just to get my head around how to manage that way. That was different for me. And then the other one that I touched on at the beginning was just the time. I had this plan, how it was going to go. that went out the window the first week, and then I found all year long I was in a position where I was investing in an inordinate amount of time to the running of the lodge and the brethren and the ritual, etc. So I don't know what the right answer is for that. I think one of the things that helped me a lot was having great people around to delegate to and rely on, and there's a few that made my year much easier because of that. And then that is important. I think that comes back to having a good network and good support. One of the things I had done is I had traveled a little bit before I got into the chair, so I had some key people I could rely on. We had a lot of past masters in our lodge specifically that are very active. And I think that's one of the challenges for a lot of lodges is there's the past masters become past masters and leave. That's not our case at the Rising Sun. No. There's a lot of help available. A lot of opinions involved in that help, but once you get past that part of the onion, you get a lot of great support from these individuals, and all you got to do is ask for help. Yeah. So that was some of the challenges I faced, but again, you and I've talked about this. I think it's by design, and you're supposed to figure it out.
Well, nothing in life is easy, and Masonry certainly isn't either. So exactly, it's part of the design of the challenges.
I'll tell you, Gino, the big moment for me on Thursday night was getting my past master's jewel.
Well, I was about to ask, what's one of your fondest memories? And I mean, that was amazing. Again, Steve, you weren't there. Burt, you're going to share this story with us, so go right ahead.
Yeah, so at the end of the night, you're no longer in the chair, and you're the past master, and the past masters of our lodge bring you down on the level, and they present to you the past master's
They circle
jewel.
around you, and Burt's the guy right in the middle.
Yeah,
Sorry,
and
continue.
so they present you with this past master's jewel, which typically ends up being the past master's jewel of somebody from the past,
right?
Someone who was a past master a long time ago that had some sort of similar connection, type of style, leadership, and very worshipful brother Mike Redmond. I thought he did an amazing job on that part. He had expressed that they had gotten me a new past master's jewel because of my unique style and approach and leadership. And the hope is someday when I pass to the Grand Lodge above, that will
be passed down.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Rising Sun wanted Burt's legacy to carry forward, and so he is one of the candidates that received a brand new past master's jewel with his name on it.
Wow. How cool
so
is
again,
that?
50, 100, well, let's say not 50, hundreds of years from now, when we have new past masters, they'll have worshipful brother Burt Tellier's past master jewel. And again, it just really speaks volumes of what Masonry is about. To have you recognized in that is probably one of the biggest honors that can be bestowed to you.
Yeah, I really felt that as an honor. Like I took it back to my family. I'm showing it off. I'm, got it in my lapel. I'm walking around and look, I'm a past master and feeling pretty good about that. But in terms of that was a memorable experience, culminating at the end of the year. But from the year itself, the memorable experience I had when we did the 60-year pin presentation to Brother Fred Browning.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was a brother who's out in Belleville who couldn't come to lodge anymore. And, we went out of our way and we got it done, and we went out there to celebrate him. That really struck me as something I enjoyed doing, as well as honoring him. And I wish I would have done more of that, actually. Of course, you don't have time to do everything, but that was one of the memorable ones because the impact I saw it have on him and his family was like, oh, wow, they care for us. Yeah. And we do care.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it showed. And he felt that. And so I got to experience that. I really enjoyed that. The other one I've talked about a little bit, or I talk about often, is ritual. Organizing the ritual is one thing, administratively. Participating in the ritual as the master is outstanding. When you watch the brethren working together in harmony and bringing pieces together that are for our brethren, it's the ultimate. From the chair of King Solomon and the view from the east, to see that happening, there's no other experience like it. And good ritual. Like, I think we did pretty good ritual at Rising Sun. We could do better. Yep. But we've improved and we stepped it up. And my encouragement to you and the brethren of the Rising Sun is better ritual, and, awesome. And be known for ritual, because it is critical to making the experience amazing. in Masonry for many, many reasons. So that's been a memorable experience for me as well. Just almost like I'm sitting on the sidelines going, wow, this is a great show. I'm really enjoying this show. These guys, I think, know what they're doing.
Well, Gino's going to have some big shoes to fill in the coming years.
I've got many big shoes to fill. We got, like I said, a lot of amazing gentlemen who've gone through those chairs, and especially the chair of King Solomon, and to try to be like them, it'll just be amazing. So, and I'll give it my own spin as well, but I'm looking forward to it. So this kind of question that I've kind of thought about to ask you today is like a little bit of a twofold. If you could jump into a time machine and go back a year, or had a chance to do it over again, would you, or what would you do different?
I'm not sure I would do a lot of stuff different than I did, and I say that because I didn't know what I was doing. So
Fair enough.
I mean, I planned, and I thought I had it all worked out, and evidently didn't. To build on that point, though, I would say it would be ideal to do a 2-year term, not because I want to stay in the chair, but I think of Thursday night. That was kind of me at my best as worshipful master, not me at my worst. And I think of that experience and being able to repeat with the right people in place and plan, it would be amazing.
Well, you get momentum on things started too, and you can build on. You can settle in your first year and continue to build as you move into your second year.
Yeah. And there's a lot of talk even in our district around this point of doing 2-year terms. I mean, your worshipful master here, Steve, at Zaradatha, worshipful brother Chris Wilson is doing a second term and third term. Sorry.
Third.
I apologize. Third term. So you think about that continuity and momentum. Like, you guys have a great thing going here at Zaradatha, and I suspect part of that is having that continuity. That is something that is maybe a consideration or topic for the future. It's not answering your question, but as I think back on the year, what would I have done different? That might be something that would be ideal, is to move into 2-year terms to support that. But I'm not sure I would change a whole lot. I mean, some stuff I could have done better, even been a little more organized in a few areas, but the whole experience is the whole experience. So enjoy the experience.
Would you do it all over again? Would you go through
definitely.
the chairs or go through King Solomon's chair again? Would you do it?
I think if I was going through the chairs, that would be unfortunate, because it means that we're not a healthier lodge. And my point's not to be controversial about that, because there's a lot of past masters going through the chairs again and sitting as worshipful master. But that can't be the goal, right? The goal has to be that, like, we're in the production of good men.
Yeah.
And the way that you produce good men in Masonry is
You bring in new men.
You bring in new men and you teach them and you employ them and instruct them. Having past masters go through, I mean, on a personal note, may be interesting, and sure, it makes for some good ritual and good organization, but that's not the point. The point is to make good men better men. So that happens through the chairs. So I say that, yes, I would absolutely do that. If called upon, I'll do what I have to do to support my lodge, our district, and Masonry in general, here in Canada or abroad. Happy to be involved in that. But ideally, there'd be other people that we have. Like, I feel good about the Rising Sun Lodge now because of the work of our past masters, all their work getting us to a place where we have a strong lineup, and we have a group of guys coming up now that can go into the chairs. One of the things I'm very proud of from this past year is that we had a bunch of new guys join, and with your help, with your mentoring, they've been coming back and they want to participate and they're having a good experience. So I feel good about the Rising Sun. I think we have work to do in our district and beyond as well.
So my last question for you, sir, what's next?
What's next? I anticipated that question coming, and I think I was even asked that Thursday night as I was enjoying some Highland Park Scotch, by the way. Brother Sprott. I had come to the Scotch and Cigar Night here a little while back and tried the Highland Park Scotch. I'm plugging their Scotch right now, but
That's okay. We're doing it again next year, so we better start plugging it now.
but I brought it because in one of the parts of the banquet, we have worshipful Brother Bruce Etherington, who's been on the show, was the piper that night, and he called him front and center to do a shot of whiskey with the piper. And I thought, I'm going to get a nice Scotch for worshipful Brother Etherington and myself, by the way. And I enjoyed it. And now that I had it at the head table, I had most worshipful Brother Ron Groshaw here. We had Terry Van Horn. We had Al Dresser and Mike Redmond. Like, it was a really nice banquet to have. And here I am with this beautiful bottle of Scotch. We finish our dinner, and these guys are like, "Can I try some of that? What do you got going on over there?" Right? And we haven't even got into lodge yet, so we're a little cautious, of course. But that was a really nice little experience. I hadn't anticipated, was having a Scotch with the royalty of Masonry.
The brass.
Scotch brings people together.
It really does.
Yeah, that's
It
the
really
bottom
does.
line.
I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent there. That I was trying to explain that. But what's next? There's three things on my mind that I want to do well. So one, after having completed the year as master, it was an extremely busy year on a personal front. Work-wise, it was busy from the Masonic standpoint and family as well. So my plan is to step back a little bit, which is designed for the past master to have less involvement, so that I can focus a little bit on me. And so one of the things I want to do more of this year on a personal front is just more education around esoteric meanings. College of Freemasonry is on my agenda. Some workshops I'd like to attend, and visiting other lodges and brethren. Our podcast. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm now at a position where I can jump into the podcast. You guys have done an outstanding job with it.
I was going to say, we went through this whole interview here with you, and you've mentioned all these great things, but you didn't mention the podcast.
It was coming.
And
it's all by design.
I think you have to be commended on that. Getting this up and going, and this has been a tremendous amount of work. I don't think people know what goes into this. Isn't just a sit down and speak for 45 minutes. There is so much work outside of recording that has to be done, and all three of us, day and night, messaging each other and working on things.
We love it though, don't we?
Yeah,
we love it.
But I think you have to be commended too to you brought this to the table for everybody, and
absolutely,
it was a big thing in your year in the East. That's a big undertaking as well. So
yeah, it's near and dear to my heart. You guys know that, of course. But for our audience, the first three knocks is we got big plans. We got big plans, and I feel like I'm at a place personally where I can contribute to those big plans in a more meaningful way. So that's number 2 on my list as well. And then number 3, I have some responsibilities that I want to support in our York district. I'm now president of the Wardens Association. So working with our past president, worshipful Brother Les Goff, and Sean Mills and Blair Thackway. So that'll be a really important piece for me to develop, because I think I can help the district by supporting the Wardens Association better. So those are kind of the 3 big things on my. And then I'll add to that as well. I'm a past master who's coming back. Like I don't care if you guys are busy. I'm coming in. I'm participating, and I want to be there, and not just to support, but to be involved. So that's my cue to Gino is don't forget me.
Well, I think as a new past master, you got to work on that scowl now, right?
Yeah, I've been working on it. Trying to look a little crankier, and have more opinions on things. But no, we joke about that with the past masters. But there's so many great people in our district that care deeply about Masonry and the people in it. We don't always agree on stuff, and that's okay. That's good. One of the things I love about Masonry, and it's not just our district, Masonry in general, we have a lot of debates and a lot of differences of opinions, and people don't kill each other over it or hate each other over it. We have some passionate debates, and I enjoy that. I like that part, but there's a respect that at the end of the day, we are all brother.
Yeah, and I think the main thing too is everyone's trying to work towards the same goal. It's just how you get there. Everyone's got their different ways of getting there, and you're all trying to reach and climb to the same, peak of the mountain. So, you have to remember that too. Nobody's trying to be malicious about anything. It's just everybody has their opinions and trying to get to the top.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Well, there you have it. A year in the East with worshipful brother Burt Tellier. Thanks for I guess taking this surprise interview and just sharing with our audience what it's kind of like to go through that, the lead towards it, and obviously sitting up there and now being a past master. So thank you very much for taking the time this morning.
Thanks for inviting me to do so. It's a real treat for me personally.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The First Three Knocks. Happy to meet, sorry to part, happy to meet again.